Every one of my records means something. The label, the producer, the year it was made.
Make sure you have the record player on at night.
All right, welcome to the Record Night Podcast. I'm Colin, and a little bit of a different episode coming your way here. I had the opportunity today to sit down and talk with the king of Cosmic Country himself, Mr. Daniel Donato. Daniel is an up-and-coming musician, just 25 years old, and he's got his first full-length LP coming out on August 7th. So you can go and pre-order that album on vinyl at his website right now, danieldonato.com. They're only doing 500 copies, and they're selling through them pretty quick. So I think they've sold about like 300 at this point. So go and pick that up before they sell out. If you're a fan of music, definitely check this guy out, man. I think what I'm looking for as a fan of music is just genuine artistic expression, and there's nobody's more genuine than Daniel Donato. He's got a really unique sound that he's working on, and I'm really excited to hear his new record. He's one of the nicest guys on the planet. He offered up his time to talk to me, so I'm very thankful for that, and I think we had a good conversation. We talked about his time with the Wild Feathers, which is where I first discovered him. We talked about his new record. We talked about the world being turned upside down, how his schedule's been interrupted by everything that's going on. We talked about Jordan Peterson, and Daniel talked about his desire to do a record with Sturgill Simpson, which we have to make that happen. So who wouldn't want to hear that? Anyway, Daniel, a great guy. We had a great conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. Here's my conversation with Daniel Donato. So I think, how's your day going so far?
Great. Absolutely. Really fantastic. We're doing rehearsals for a Cosmic Country taping that we have coming up on Friday.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I guess how is how is like the release of the record and everything been interrupted by like the world being upside down? Would you still be touring at this point, or?
Yeah, we would have been touring all the way up until November.
Oh, okay. Has that made it difficult for you?
Yeah, it's absolutely been it's been very shitty, but also in other ways it's been very nice. Also, it's just like anything in life. It's just like anything in life. There is a yin and a yang to all things. And it's fascinating to see that happen.
Yeah. Well, so for the purposes of my podcast, what we do is we listen to records in their entirety, and then attempt to have a meaningful discussion about it. So this will go kind of perfect with, when I'll kind of use this when we listen to your record. So I figure we could talk about, your new record a little bit, but I just have a couple like random questions from, I guess, listening to your podcast.
Cool.
And just being a fan. So
thank you.
I feel like your background is pretty well documented as far as like busking in Nashville and all that sort of stuff. So I just figured I'll just start with you where I first discovered you, and that was with the Wild Feathers. So how did that gig come about, and what was that experience like for you?
That gig came about when I was 20 years old. I was just about to turn 21, and I just stopped playing on Broadway full time, and I was going to get more into touring. The way I left Broadway was I was playing at Robert's Western World all the time. I was playing there 4 or 5 nights a week, and the way that happened was I just got fired. And I got absolutely fired, and it was absolutely just a terrible thing for me at the time. But now looking back on it, it was such a beautiful thing. But at the time I was absolutely depressed. It was the first time I ever experienced depression, like in a very serious way, where I went and started seeing a therapist, like psychologist, a psychiatrist, had medication. And that's kind of, for a little while there, my life got really weird because I wasn't making any money. I wasn't inspired by music. My girlfriend was making much more money than me. And so my ego was all battled, and it was a terrible thing. And I was talking to Sadler Vaden, who plays with Jason Isbell.
Sure.
And, we went and got pizza one day, and at 5 Points Pizza in East Nashville. And I just started being vegan, so it was really hard. And it was hard to find there's not many vegan options in Nashville, oddly enough, and no longer vegan. We're always changing, as you. And So what happened was, Sadler was like, man, I think my friend Joel, his band is looking for a guitar player. And I didn't even think, oh, Joel King from the Wild Feathers. I was just like, sure, give Joel my number, please. And so that night, we actually went to the Family Wash, which is no longer. It was a great East Nashville escapade. And Joel met me there, and I realized it was Joel King from the Wild Feathers, and I loved the Wild Feathers' first record. It had been a while since they'd put out a second record, and they were about to release a second record produced by Jay Joyce. And Joel met me there, I think with Sadler that night. Yeah, it was with Sadler. Joel had this dope black leather jacket on. I think he still has the same jacket. And he had like these Marlboro cigarettes with him. And then he's like, want to go smoke a cigarette? I'm like, no, I don't smoke. He's like, you want to go smoke a cigarette? I'm like, okay, sure. Let's go smoke a cigarette. And so we, which is the coolest thing is that no one really cares in Nashville. If you just light a joint anywhere, they don't really care.
Nice.
And so Joel and I got to know each other very well, and we had an instant connection right off the bat. We just liked the same kinds of music. We had the same vibe, the same drive, and a lot of the same morals, it seemed. And he was like, well, you seem pretty cool. You're a little young, but why don't you come and rehearse with the band? We're looking for new guys. So they had brought me on along with another guy at the same time. I'm forgetting his name.
I think Brett Moore is playing with them now.
So Brett and I came on at the same time, and Brett was very, 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 very ready to just set up camp and be with the Wild Feathers and be the Wild Feathers dude. And I was not. I had a huge ego. I had a big ego, and I have a big ego now, but I'm just a hair smarter. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm just a little. I'm not even going to say smarter. I just have more experience now.
Sure.
But at the time, it wasn't a vibe. It wasn't working. We got out on the road, and I just wasn't the right fit for them. And that was cool. It was fine. And they were super friendly. Super friendly. No more hyperbole. They were very educated in knowing how to tour, how to stay out on the road for 6 weeks, how to stay consistent with your show each night, how to make it show business, right? How to, even when your throat hurts and your hand hurts, and you might have, you're out of fresh guitar strings. How do you still give it your all? And how do you do it when how do you do it when you have to drive 2 days in the snow all the way from Colorado to Maine? And it's
my God.
And it's just like, we don't even have time to stop at a restaurant for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
You have to eat Campbell's chunky soup that you buy from a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And that was cool to me because that was me realizing that on a professional level, just because you're on a major label, that means nothing. That means nothing unless you have people coming to the show and you're selling tickets and you're executing as many revenue streams as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That means nothing. You would think that you're on a major label, you have a nice big bus, everyone has their hotel room every night, there's no worries. No, not at all. That's not the case. A business is a business, and it makes an amount of money, and it needs a certain amount of money to have certain luxuries, regardless of whose name is on the check, right? And so that was cool for me to learn because we had to hustle, and I love hustling.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was beautiful, man. I would never have given any of that a day away of that at all. It was fantastic, and I was with him for about a year. And the last show we played together was at the Ryman.
Oh, okay. Is that no? They recorded an album live at the Ryman, so that's what you're talking about?
Yes.
Cool. That's interesting, man. I didn't know if so. Your aim, like when you started, was to like be the Wild Feathers lead guitarist. Like, was that the plan when you first jumped on?
It was for me to be Daniel Donato in their band.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was gonna say before when you brought up your ego. I mean, I guess you have to have one a little bit if you're gonna do your own thing, which is what you're doing now. So I mean, all's well that ends well, right?
I think so, and they seem to be in a really beautiful place, and they're with one of the best managers ever, with John Peets, who manages Eric Church, or Nash McBride, Black Keys, and Wild Feathers. D White, he manages D White, one of my best friends. You would love D's record, produced by Dan Auerbach, the best.
Oh wow, okay, cool, yeah.
The best country vocalist that has, he just has a gift.
Yeah.
He has an absolute stunning gift that any room across the country recognizes immediately. Just a beautiful gift. And the Wild Feathers are a little bit different. They're more of like they have a vibe. right?
Mhm.
There's a difference between like a gift and a vibe. And a vibe is cool. A vibe wins, right? Like a
Mhm.
vibe is awesome. But like some people are just born gifted.
Mhm.
I am not. But he most certainly is. So you would love his music. But John Peets, yeah, at the time. So again, they were in a weird place where they really disliked their management really badly, the Wild Feathers. And
Uh-huh.
so I was with them on the tail end of them losing their guitar player, their confidant, their writer, their brother in arms, and they weren't loving their manager. So I was with them at a weird time, and they were all the me being very young and them perceiving themselves as not young, which I don't, that's a thing. Um,
Mhm.
that was a weird tension. So looking back on it now, I'm so much to handle that I can just see how it wasn't the right fit.
Yeah.
There's some stories from that time in my life that are just worth their weight in gold.
Well, let me jump to one that you alluded to on one of your podcasts.
Yeah.
You accidentally took mushrooms
Yeah,
while you were with the Wild Feather. So I could see that being a terrible experience, but you kind of indicated it was pleasant. How was that?
it was. It was extremely pleasant. It was beautiful. It was a fantastic evening in my life.
Had you
Um,
taken mushrooms prior to that?
no.
Wow. See that I'd be terrified, I feel like.
Well, that's the thing for me. Music has been the have you ever been walking? Do you ever remember walking through a busy public area with one of your parents when you were younger and you were just holding onto their hand frantically?
Oh, sure. I feel like I was probably more yeah, for sure.
That's how music's been for me in my experiences with life. So
Mm.
when I fell in love for the first time, it was through music.
Mhm.
When I discovered my passion for my potential to get good at a career, it was through music. When I discovered how to make money for the first time, it was through music. And when I discovered the psychedelic experience for the first time, it was through music. So
Mm.
music's kind of that thing in life where I kind of just holding on to its hand like a scared child in the mall.
I see.
And it's like, come with me. Come.
Mhm.
Okay.
Nice.
I trust, right? I really legitimately do. And yeah, so we were in where was Jeffrey Dahmer? He was in Wisconsin somewhere. He was in Madison, Wisconsin. No, it wasn't Madison, Wisconsin. It was somewhere.
It's funny. I live in Cleveland, and I think he's originally from around here, but yeah, he ended up in Wisconsin somewhere.
Was it Wisconsin?
Mhm.
Okay, so it was somewhere in Wisconsin. And it's a venue across the street from the hotel in which he murdered most of his victims. And it's this really strange venue. Really, really strange venue. I forget the name of it, but it's like an old building that must be 5 stories high with a basement, with like 2-story basement. Unbelievably old, scary building. And there's always like 3 shows going on. It's like one of those venues.
Okay.
So the Wild Feathers, EDM artist, and then like some very, very, very indie band. And so we were playing on the second floor. So it was great because we didn't have to load in super high up the stairs. And we were playing, and they have this amazing green rooms that are very well thought for. A lot of tapestry, nice incense. They pay attention to your rider. You have all the beverages that you could ever need. You don't need to go out of pocket for a per diem, things like that. Very fantastically run venue, very professionally well done. But they weren't doing very well in the market there. The Wild Feathers at the time, I think they're in a different place now, but at the time they were kind of confused about what it seemed like their fan base was. And so it was mainly people who skewed probably 45 plus that came to the show. People who wanted to sit down for the show,
Mhm.
people who wanted to have more of an evening with Wild Feathers, as opposed to like a raucous rock and roll show, right? Understandably.
Mhm.
I love sitting at a show and having a glass of wine before I'm up there sweating and dancing, unless I'm on the
Mhm.
stage. So I can relate to that in a very heavy way.
Sure.
But they wanted kind of the latter to be like, and we had some markets where that was the place, like Bowery Ballroom in New York City. I threw up on myself about 45 seconds before that show.
Oh no.
I was so sick. I've never been more sick in my life. But this is a different night. So we're doing the show. We do sound check. We're hanging out in the green room. There's nothing to do around there except get Bloody Marys, which we did one Bloody Mary at this very famous place, like right down the road. And then we came back to the venue, and the guys were drinking a little, and there was a friend there, this dude with a huge beard and like had like beads in his beard.
Ooh.
And he brought like this trail mix. He brought like a trail mix to the show, to the green room that was said for band only.
Okay.
And there was like a post-it note with like saran wrap around it. And it was like right next to another bowl that had like nachos and chips, whatever. So you would have thought it was just for band only because, for like, don't eat this if you work here. Not like, don't eat this if you don't want to go on a psychedelic experience.
Yeah.
So about 15 minutes before the show, I'm digging into the trail mix. Because I was actually, at a time, I was trying to be very, very healthy at the time. Like, I was so weird, man. Like, I brought a pound of lentils on the road.
Okay.
Like, I showed up to bus call with a pound of pre-cooked lentils. Like, that's what they're thinking, who the fuck is this?
Yeah, that's
a
funny.
pound of lentils. Because I'd never toured before, really. So I didn't know you could just buy food. I didn't think. So the lentils are gone now. And I was eating before the show. Anyway, man, I took 2 handfuls of this trail mix, and they're like, "Oh, Donato ate the trail mix." I didn't. It's like, okay. About 45 minutes in, we were doing this song called Overnight.
Okay. Yep.
It's like their single.
Yep.
And I remember Taylor was like the main. He still is the main electric guitar player in the band, and I remember I finished the song while playing his part over him. And after the song was done,
fun.
I kept playing it. I didn't think the band was done.
Oh, wow.
So it was just like, I realized at this point I'm getting very, very high. Something is happening. I'm not aware of this. And then Joel comes over to me and he says, "You're about to have an experience you're never going to forget." And this is in between songs. And they're just doing big old chords. So the audience, like literally the 37 people there didn't. So they, I guess, quote unquote, wouldn't know what was happening. So I was like, "Listen, just calm down. You're on mushrooms. You're going to be very high here for probably a couple hours." And they were all on mushrooms too. I didn't know, but they were fine. They were just playing just fine. So we played the show. We finished the show. We load out our own gear on mushrooms. Now, to pack up your own amplifier and carry it down a set of stairs while having played a show, while very much so tripping, that is a different experience, man. Especially like almost like it was obscenely cold. It might have been negative degrees outside. It was insane. Everyone, after we're done working, we go to what was the bandwagon, which is like in between a bus and a Mercedes Sprinter, which is what we were traveling in. So the band can still drive it. They don't need to pay for a bus driver. And so it's like a bus trailer that's attached to what looks like a normal semi-front, except it's not a cargo trailer. It's a trailer that you can lounge in and live in. And there's bunks. Everyone went to a casino that night. I had not turned 21 yet. And I was going to turn 21 in like a couple days.
Oh, wow.
And we were on our way to LA. We were like routing from LA. So that's why we were up there in the north.
Okay.
And I turned 21 at the Troubadour to a sold out show in LA.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So all these great highlights and experiences. But I stayed in the van that night. I stayed in the bandwagon while everyone else went to the casino and just had like, I'm sure like an amazing time. And it was the retirement game for Kobe Bryant.
Oh, wow.
Insane. And I had never known. I never really knew about like what Kobe Bryant did. I never knew about the data. I never knew about how many times he was defensive, offensive MVP. You know, how many times he was Hall of Fame, like all these things. And I just remember watching this, and that was like, I realized I had this crazy realization. It was like, that guy is a champion. Now, it's not my job to say what degree for me, but I am also a champion. So I had this amazing time by myself on this bus, being like, I got it. I want to have this bus. I want to play my own shows. I want to do these things, which are very narcissistic, self-centered thoughts. And then as the evening went on, I was probably awake for 8-9 hours just listening to music and just very much so just writing and writing. And it was on that trip where a lot of like the songs, the premises for the songs that we're still playing today in the Cosmic Country show, there's even one that I wrote back then that we're still playing now. So
Wow.
that whole run, that like 6-week run, was the start of a lot for me in regards to like what the present draft of my identity looks like today in regards to what Cosmic Country is and what Daniel Donato is. But yeah, I was watching Kobe Bryant high on mushrooms in temperatures on a bus and then listening to like Morning Phase by Beck on repeat 3 times.
Oh, nice. Now you've used psychedelics like intentionally since then,
Mhm.
correct?
Just mushrooms.
Okay. Have you had any kind of profound like epiphanies or anything like from that experience?
Yeah, I mean I think the profound epiphanies are the things that are most obvious, which I find so many paradoxes in life are that way. So the last one we did was probably back in May, and it wasn't May; it was May 23rd. I still like to keep it a person in my phone that I don't text very often. The psychedelic experience, like I don't like to
Sure.
go that often.
Totally
Um,
agree.
just to keep it alive, you know.
Mhm.
But it was the concept of mortality that was like the biggest one. The not even the concept, the reality of mortality. Sorry, the reality of mortality. That was the most present thought I had on the last one, just because of everything that's been going on in regards to the aside from the trite cliches that we know today, the fear, like almost just experiencing normal life now. So strange to see how like going to the store is now very scary for certain kinds of people. For
Sure.
me, at least. So it's like, you know, it was cool though. It was good. Yeah. So the reality of mortality was something I was thinking of a lot on the last psychedelic trip. How about yourself?
Yeah, I feel like I actually, I did LSD for the first time this past weekend, and it was kind of cool because I pretty much settled on the Cosmic Country playlist, which I hadn't really listened to before, but that was kind of perfect,
Are
to listen to.
you serious?
Yeah, during the experience. I actually landed, you've made a big influence on me lately in terms of just the guests you've had on the podcast that I've listened to and stuff. And Yvette Young was actually one that I listened to, which was really cool, man. As far as like different sounds and stuff, which just sound, more amazing than they would normally during that experience. So that was really cool. But yeah, I feel like I've just had kind of the normal like experience of a universal oneness and that kind of thing. So it just kind of confirmed everything. I like researched a lot about psychedelics before I ever like jumped into it, and I feel like it just kind of confirmed all that stuff.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. So you were by yourself?
Well, I did it. We listened to, well, actually, no, I was with some buddies, and we listened to Rage Against the Machine, which they're probably not the best like LSD listening experience, but it was cool. It was just the kind of experience where anything would have been okay at that. It was just, everything was positive, so
Yeah.
it worked
Yeah.
out.
Everything is. That's the funny thing too. It's like whenever something's wrong in the world, it's funny, like in terms of like an immediacy in your reality. I hate this. I hate this song, whatever. This person's annoying me. This rain sucks. It's only because you're determining it to be wrong. It's not because the thing itself is bad. It's because your perception on it is wrong.
Perception, yeah.
And you're placing a desire for it to go away. And it's whenever you produce a desire that is the only time when things go wrong. It seems. It's like at all other moments in time, you're blissfully just living and playing with life. It's like, you ever think about the fact that like you forget you have a head? Like you're not aware of the fact that there's a bulbous skull attached to your shoulders throughout your day as you're literally turning it hundreds of times until you have a headache, until you have a desire for it to stop hurting. Only when the desire is created do you realize that you even have the head. Do you remember? And it's funny to think about how desire is the very thing that like is the source for a lot of disgust, stress, anxiety. Rage Against the Machine, that would scare me terribly to listen to on LSD.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, are you like familiar with them, like fans of them, like otherwise, or like not so much?
Not so much. I don't love, like, I played Guitar Hero growing up. That's how I got. So I love like the classics. I appreciate what Tom Morello does, and I love the truth of the lyrics and everything. But like on in terms of loving the music, no, not really. I've never loved heavy music.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've tried. Like, part of the thing with the podcast we do is like we do it with 3, sometimes 4 people, and so we all have really different tastes in music. So like I try to stay as open-minded as I can, like listening to like Megadeth or that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not so into it either. So is that how you like you got serious about playing guitar when you were 12? Is that right?
Uh, I picked up guitar when I was 12, and 14 was when I played on stage for the first time. And it was after that experience I started dictating a lot of my time to becoming better.
So was it Guitar Hero that started that for you?
Guitar Hero is what got me into playing guitar in the first place.
Wow.
My friends were skateboarders. I was trying to be a skateboarder, and I was really bad. But we had at my house, and my mom made everyone Hot Pockets after school. So we would come home from school, eat Hot Pockets, play Guitar Hero for a couple hours, and then go skateboard. I would try to skateboard. But something happened along the way where I was getting better at Guitar Hero than everyone else. I don't know why. It's because I just loved it. And I picked up the guitar during that time and loved it. And then I stopped. I had the realization where I don't need friends. I have a guitar.
That's funny.
And so guitar has always been that thing where it's like, it's the leveler of truth for me. It truly is.
Wow.
So, yeah, I stopped hanging out with everyone, and those people never heard from me again. And until now when we're touring and stuff, there's some of these people, since we're into our early adulthood lives and everyone's kind of left home. They'll be in certain cities that we go to and be like, I haven't seen you in a while, and it's cool. It's cool.
I see. Yeah. Sure.
Very beautiful. But yeah, I stopped hanging out with everybody. I knew instantly that I had to get better. I knew how to get better.
Mhm.
I was able to come up with next action steps from day one on how to get better. Something about it just with my brain. It strategically works well. I can dream with it, but then I can also be very literal with it and plan out things with it. So it's fantastic. So yeah, I was 12 years old.
Were you always into country music, or like what did you start with?
I started with what my dad was into, which is I think what a lot of children do. My parents, my dad played, but very, very in a very much so a novice approach.
Okay.
And, but he had a great passion for it, but he was never able to attain the skill that would be. Well, his dad played, so that explains why he got so good. Where you see that all the time, and it's like that's cool. My thing was way different. My thing was my dad played. My dad had an amazing collection of music, and he turned me on to the first 3 CDs he gave me was Led Zeppelin 3, American Beauty, and then Stevie Ray Vaughan, Live at the Elma Combo. So it was just like, come on.
Yeah.
I was done. And but then I started getting into country when I played on a stage in Nashville for the first time by happenstance.
I see. So one of the things you posted on Instagram, well, hold on, let me jump back to something real quick. I've been a fan of yours for a long time.
Wow.
But one of the things that kind of endeared me to you more than anything is a couple months ago, you posted on Instagram, you needed some inspiration for a guitar solo. And so you pull up Stone Cold Steve Austin highlights to play guitar. So I was a huge wrestling fan as a kid. So that you went as for Halloween, you went trick-or-treating as Steve Austin.
Yeah, that was actually the night we did mushrooms.
Oh, wow.
Right after that session was when we did the mushrooms.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that is. I'm all about that. I love fighters. Stone Cold is not a fighter, right? But I wrestled. I was a very angry child. I had a lot of energy, and I was very angry. I always wanted to be first. I'm very competitive, and a short-sighted child, which is a lot of kids are,
Sure.
And so my dad put me into wrestling when I was very young, when I was in kindergarten, and it was great for me, man. And I just loved wrestling. This is like obviously not WWE. This is legitimate wrestling sport. But I loved the culture and the tenacity of the WWE. And I was Stone Cold for a couple Halloweens. And yeah, before we go on stage, a lot of the times we're playing Bob Ross and then like WWE videos.
Nice. It is like you've indicated a couple times you were pretty good at wrestling. Is
Yeah.
it the kind of thing, like, if you got in a scuffle with somebody now, you think you can kind of handle yourself, or has it been too long? Like,
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I stopped wrestling because everyone else started hitting puberty at a certain age, and I just didn't. And then that's right when guitar came into my life, and that was perfect for me. I think I would get my ass kicked pretty easily these days. Someone who knew what they were doing.
yeah, I think that's the hope, is that they don't know what they're doing. All right. So anyway, the reason Daniel and I are talking today, and again, I'm very thankful for your time, is you've got a new record coming out on August 7th, A Young Man's Country. You can pre-order that record right now at danieldonato.com. And while you're there, you can also order one of these
Thank you, Colin. That's
one of
beautiful.
these T-shirts.
Happy Earth Tea.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No problem. You're knocking it out of the park as far as like the artwork is concerned. That's one of the cool parts of like albums. That's the reason I like vinyl records, is like having the nice full, artwork and everything with the record. Do you design the artwork, or does somebody design it for you? What's your involvement there?
Isabel Beatrix is the artist for Cosmic Country, and we're very involved, her and I. So she lives in Australia, and whenever we go to collaborate on a project for a graphic, it's every day. We're back and forth with each other and just making the slightest minutia changes. And the way that it starts is I bring her loads of imagery and symbolism that I would like for the art to speak for me. So for the Young Man's Country album, I knew it was going to be a record that a lot of people in Nashville would instantly call not Nashvilleian, where we're playing very fast, we're playing very hard, we're playing very loud, we're playing like young men. Because you're not a young man forever.
Right.
You're a young man for a very short period of time. So you might as well sound like one when you have the chance to sound like one.
Sure.
Was my whole thing. And then Robin Ford, my hero, who produced the record, came up with the title. And,
cool.
But that's the thing. I feel like when you go to pursue a project and you're seated in the right intention, you pretty much are just unveiling the details of it. It's almost like you're just pulling the curtain back and forth, where it's like, of course, Robin came in the second day of the session. He's like, I woke up this morning and the first thing that was on my mind was A Young Man's Country. And I'm just like, my God, it gave me goosebumps. Almost made me start. And then I realized as the record was done that this is a young man's record. You're not going to hear, that's a guy who's excited to go make his first record. That's a guy who's really excited to go and tell his story and who hasn't done it quite yet. And it's like, that's a guy who has something to prove. And so I just love the sound of it. And so getting back to the album cover, sorry here. That's why I love podcasts, because it's the realm for people who are long-winded. If you look at the album cover, you'll see that it's me on a horse, and then it's death on a horse trailing behind me. But they're both happy. They both have roses in their mouths. So it's the idea of in the Cosmic Cottage here, there's a skull above me, a cow skull that is staring at me every second that I work. And it's the reality of mortality is the most real thing in your life. And it's the first truth before anything else is ever a truth, is the reality of mortality. So it's a good thing to get older, and it's a good thing to get to that place in your life where you're going to eventually pass. And I wanted to shed light on the fact that it's okay to get older. So it's cool because A Young Man's Country, you would think on first sight, it's about being a young dude, but no, it's really about a young dude turning into an old dude and maturing. And that's the whole process of life, is to mature and just enjoy the ride. That's why they're on horses. They're riding horses. Yeehaw. Get it up.
Now, how long was that, like, the vision? Because this is your first record. Like, how long had you thought about it being this, or did it kind of come together with Robin and like actually getting in the studio to do it?
So Jordan Peterson is a person that I love, and a lot of people dislike Jordan Peterson. My job as an entertainer is to not. I don't like have like anything politically strong that I feel is necessary to say. So, but like in terms of how he approaches just making your life better and living it in a more truthful way, I love that. And he has this idea where if you sit down and ask yourself how you're being stupid, you'll come up with a lot of ways to solve your anxiety and come up with ways to get better at living. And so I ask myself this, like pretty much like every Sunday. I sit down and be like, how was I stupid this week? How was I a literal moron? How did I make an ass out of myself? And that happened one week where after we finished cutting the record, I was thinking, well, when Robin said Young Man's Country, I was like, man, that's the most beautiful thing ever.
Mhm.
You know, and I was thinking, what can I do to make sure that that is communicated as best as I could, that it can be. And I just started thinking about what does that actually mean, and it just kind of came to me. It was a moment of inspiration. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, Jordan Peterson's a powerful guy, man. I remember I discovered him when he was on Joe Rogan for the first time. And I remember like a buddy of mine, I got in the car to pick him up, like we were gonna hang out, and I was like, hey man, I was like, you have to see this guy that was just on Joe Rogan, and he was like, oh my God, I was gonna tell you the same thing. So he
Oh,
definitely took the world by storm there for a minute. His
yeah.
his book was the first book that I read from cover to cover in like a long time. So I'm a fan as well.
It's all truth, man. That's his whole thing. And no one, regardless of what you vote for, it does not matter.
Right.
You cannot deny the truth. The truth is older than humans. I mean,
Right.
the truth is, so I mean, you know what I mean? So it's like you can't deny something that's older, that's bigger than you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's why a lot of people attach to him. It
Mhm.
seems to be mainly young males. But that's cool. That's fine. Maybe that's the kind of truth that he brings to the world. That's something else that Jordan Peterson taught me, was the fact that you don't need many fans as Drake to be very successful. You do not.
Mm-hmm.
You just need your own tranche of people that speak or people who love your truth. You know, so it's your job to discover your truth and to be as egoless about it as possible. But you need all the ego in the world to be able to monetize, to be able to create products, and to be able to communicate the story to the people. So he's a fantastic inspiration for anyone who's trying to figure out, what do I offer the world? How do I communicate with the world? I'm still figuring that out at scale every day, as I'm sure you are.
Sure.
So, you know, but yeah, he's an inspiration for what I do musically in a big, big way.
Wow. Very cool. You've been talking, I feel like on your last couple of podcasts about like not really having trouble finding inspiration the past couple of weeks. Is that something you have like remedies to deal with, or is this just unique given the circumstance of the world right now?
Oh, it's got to be both, right? Because
Yeah.
what's happening right now is so large that I don't know all that's affecting me, right? Like you can't know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I've learned during quarantine that I did not know prior, was that I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's actually like my job as like a human, is to like not know. Again, going back to the parent thing, the metaphor with music. Have you, if you've ever had a problem when you were a young child, I'm sure there were some where you're like, I have to talk to my parents. Fortunately, I'm very fortunate. I know not everyone does, but I have a very healthy relationship with my parents. And there were times where I wouldn't have been able to figure out a problem unless I was able to run it by them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because I didn't know, and I knew I didn't know. And so I went to the source of truth that would help me figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I think life is our source presently in regards to what's going on here. And that sounds very woohoo. It sounds very abstract, but we really don't know all the ways that we're feeling depressed, and what are all the causes and all the sources that are making us sad and depressed. And I'm seeing it at scale with a lot of people in the artist community, in the podcasting community, people who are not feeling it as much. And I just have to think that if the human race, especially in the United States where we are, because we have all the civil unrest that's also going along with the economic downturns, and then you have cultural seismic shifts that are going on. Then you have the exponential growth of advancement in technology that's also happening. And we also have the highest cases. So it's like we are in a particularly inflamed part of the map to be on. And so I think you and I, as creatives, and a lot of other people who are young as creatives, we're getting the short end of the stick in some ways. But I look at it also as the best end of the stick, because listen, if you can't figure out how to stay cool and come out of this a little bit stronger, I don't know how, this is the best chance in life that you're ever going to get, is to have shit hit the fan, and then you grow and become stronger because of it. So I think it's just growing pains, my friend. I really do. I'll tell you what though, playing with the band today.
Oh, nice.
It gave me meaning. It helped me realize meaning. Sorry again. That's a weird thing with music, is the fact that so much of your meaning and self-worth can be tied to the actual act of it itself. And to have that not be possible in order to help make other people's lives, to ensure other people's lives are safer. You can't play a live show right now. Some dudes are, and some women are. That's awesome. I'm just not. I just can't ask people to come into a room and sit down and see me.
Yeah.
Just wrong. So, but to get in a room and play music with people that were all safe and we all respect each other's boundaries, my God, it totally reminded me. It was just like that. It was that thing again. So I don't know. We're always changing. Again, we're constantly changing.
I was pretty lucky as far as the live shows go. I saw two kind of right before shows stopped. I saw Sturgill Simpson play in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And then I saw Joe Bonamassa 2 days later here in Cleveland.
Okay.
And I remember thinking that was like one of the last shows. Like I feel like everything kind of started getting shut down. Like right after that, it was like mid-March, like early mid-March.
Were those not Joe's last shows? Cleveland?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think he was supposed to keep touring after that, but they might have ended up being his last shows. It was a Friday night that I saw him. He was there Friday and Saturday.
Okay, so those were his. I was just hanging out with Joe. He's going to be coming to the podcast.
Oh, cool.
And Joe's a mentor to me. Joe is like one of my absolute heroes, and he's always been unbelievably kind to give me advice and like sit down and like, what do you feel like? Let's go to dinner. Let's talk about it. And it's like that's amazing.
Yeah.
But so funny thing with Sturgill Simpson was so our last show, who's also a fucking hero of mine. If I could make a record with Sturgill, so the dream was after this record comes out that Sturgill hears it, and Sturgill, of course, like I've met Sturgill several times before he and I had anything going on. Not that I have anything going on in contrast to Sturgill, because Sturgill is the boss. But he used to play at Roberts. I used to play at Roberts. I used to sneak into the 5 spot in East Nashville and watch him play. And like pretend I was 21 and like, so he's a hero of mine, and I it'd be a dream if I could make a record with him. But we did a show in Roanoke, Virginia, the last night before the we did a show in Richmond, Virginia. Sorry, but I said Roanoke on the microphone that night, and then I said Roanoke again. No, we did it in Roanoke, but I said Richmond. I'm just messing up all over the place. At the Capitol Ale House. And Sturgill that night was playing 30 minutes down the road. And so I was all kinds of pissed off. Sturgill and Tyler Childers, we're going to have no one come to our show. Hell, I would cancel the show and go watch them play.
Yeah.
Sturgill canceled that morning, and we didn't know. Man, somehow a lot of the people who heard of, who had caught wind that we were playing just down the road and came.
Oh, nice.
And so it was like having Sturgill's crowd and Tyler's crowd at our show. And it was just like, it was a very, very heavy time.
Oh, yeah.
The show. Because a lot of people, we all knew that this was like, it's like we were all in the hospital room and the thing was on life support. And we were all holding hands and we're all like, it was fun. And so it was the only show where I fully 100% was aware, as much as I possibly can be. I was 100% aware to the maximum capacity of my awareness, which is probably me being 25 and very stupid, probably a very small percentage. But I was, to the degree that I have awareness, I was very aware that I do not matter, but the music and the experience is the thing. Dude, it was people dancing, women, like people were crying. We played for, I think like 2.5 hours, something. Wow. It was just and so that show is also on Bandcamp. You can go get that show.
Oh, cool.
Danny's Picks Volume 2, just like trying to, and it's intense, man. It was a beautiful time, and that show taught me so much. And I think about it all the time because it was a forced occasion to literally lose your ego in order to do a better job, which you think would be counterintuitive to doing a better job. But that's the weird thing about music. Again, these great paradoxes.
Did you like Sturgill's latest record, Sound and Fury?
I like what it means for Sturgill. Musically, Nick Fry, who's in Cosmic Country, my right-hand man in that world, he loves, he thinks it's like his favorite Sturgill record.
Yeah, mine too.
That's awesome. So musically, what is it about it that turns you on?
Well, I think a big part of it is kind of like you said, what it means to Sturgill. I like the fact that it was like just a left turn. Like that's just so him to like go and do his own thing. And I've heard him talk about the way they recorded it and just like they did it very quickly. And they had like videos of like samurai movies and stuff playing. And yeah, I just love that he had that ambition to do something that was so different. And I
Well,
think it came off really cool.
it came off really cool. What's your favorite song off the record?
Fastest Horse in Town.
Me too.
The last one, which that took me a minute because it's a little harsh at first, but they end up hitting a really good groove. There's a couple. Him and Jason Isbell are like really good guitar players.
Really good.
So I don't like. I was seeing him live, like, and particularly because he played some of the songs off of A Sailor's Guide, and he didn't have a horn section this time, so it's just guitars. It was just guitars the whole show, and it was like you realize, like, wow, this guy can really play. So I think that was a cool aspect of it as well.
Yeah, I can't agree more. Obviously he's a big asset into the world of like of turning people's ears onto the concept of being able to improvise with country music.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, which really is just like when you improvise, you're telling a story with your instrument, and what country music is the American way of telling a story
hmm
in regards to its original art form. So it's like it's literally just storytelling at its finest, if you ask me, is doing country music with improvisation, because you get to tell your story with your words, and then you get to tell a story with your guitar. And I can't think of a better thing in life than that.
yeah, yeah. That's so cool. Well, speaking of that, I wanted to ask you about songwriting because when I think of Daniel Donato, I think guitar player. You're a really good guitar player. But like as a songwriter, like how do you approach that? Do you is it a similar craft to like playing the guitar, or how do you approach it?
It's not similar. My skill with the guitar, I could get hired to do a session in town.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'd be hired to be a songwriter for somebody.
Okay.
Right. So there's different, right. So there's guitar players who are very stylized. And then there's guitar players who are really great at doing sessions and doing something that's more du jour and something that's modern and competitive sounding. That sounds like a culture. It doesn't sound like a singular person, like John Mayer. Like if you were to hear John Mayer on a Luke Combs song, you might be like, I don't know.
I see.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but Saul Philcox, who plays on Luke Combs records, that dude can sound like anyone he wants. Oh, we need an edge. We need you to sound like the edge on the pre-chorus here, and then we need you to do some Derek Truck style slide on this, and you can be the Swiss Army knife. I can do that as a guitar player. As a songwriter, I'm very much handicapped to my own experience and my own way of telling a story, and so that it's way more objective writing songs. Some people come to the shows and they know every word to the song, and it's like that's beautiful, right? And some people come just to hear the guitar. That's amazing. That's beautiful. The fact that just because I play an instrument that well, you're gonna come out to the show. That's the most beautiful thing. Because you can connect with it the same way that I'm connecting with it, even though you're not playing it, I'm playing it. That's heavy. Like that's obscenely heavy, and that's a timeless thing that's never going to go away. No matter how I think, no matter how scared we are of music coming back or not, eventually that will happen again. So writing songs for me definitely is not. I'm definitely nowhere near as competent as I am as a guitar player. I don't think.
Do you, I mean, are you like, are you trying to get there? Like, are there lyricists that like really inspire you? And like, there's just so many different, I don't know, like there's a bunch of different approaches to playing guitar too, obviously, but like with song, I really like lyricism, and like, there's just so many different ways to approach it. You know what I mean? Like more straightforward storytelling, more just trying to like provide good imagery, or like, so, like, do you have like a style you're trying to go after, or like?
Yeah, I do. I'm all about quantifying your goals, right? So if you could absolutely, like, if you can come up with parameters, it's very fascinating when you go look in the world of audio tags and look at how Spotify classifies a song, right? So there'll be acousticness, there'll be danceability, there's loudness, how compressed is the track, How long does it take for the track to get to the chorus? There's all these actual fences that they put around the song. Now, my father's in software. It has been since I could remember. And so the whole concept of introducing technology to every aspect of your life has only shown appreciation in my life. A lot of people are like, well, I'm bad with technology. I'm bad with technology too. It's not whether you're bad with it. It's whether you're open-minded to it or not. So the thing about it is you can quantify in some ways a song now, but the way that we look at music and the way we recommend music to people. So the way that I've recently quantified my songs is I want to have, and this sounds very abstract, right? And it's my job for it to sound abstract, but to deliver the people something that isn't as abstract. I want it to be American, and I want it to have magic realism. Magic realism is something that you'll experience in like Robert Hunter's songwriting. He's Jerry Garcia's main collaborator. He wrote Fire on the Mountain. He wrote Broke Down Palace. He wrote Ripple. China Cat Sunflower. Look for a while at the China Cat Sunflower proud, walking jingle in the midnight sun. Copper dome Bodie drip of silver. Crazy quilt star gown through a moonlight wind, moonlight veil or something. It's like, what?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
All it does is it's like a nice breeze that just blows through the imagery of your mind. And you can't help but just feel like, I don't understand this world, but I kind of like it. I love that. And when I say American, I'm referencing a lot of lyricists like Tyler Childers and John Prine. People who just tell you a story that nobody else could have told because nobody else lived it and sat down to write it that had their mind. And Jerry Garcia had a fantastic thing he said, where it's not your job to be the best at what you do. It's your job to be the only one that does what you do. And it's like, again, removing that ego, this best, worst. It's like, no, I'm just the only one, like, for better or worse, you know, I'm the only dude that could be this much of a dipshit on stage. You know, I'm also the only one who could have dialed in that tone and reacted with it at that time and bent the strings in that way and made the song that tempo, you know? So it's, I think like nobody else could have written Country Squire. No one. No one could have. And three dudes that went to go sit in an office on Music Row that came in with hook lines on their iPhone notes memo could not have been like, I have this song called Country Squire. And they'd be like, literally, someone would be like, yeah, I don't hate it. What else you got? Well, that's cool. Like, I love writing songs. So that's the thing is where Cosmic Country is really cool is that, at least in my opinion, is that it's very much a collaborative effort. I live in Nashville. So holy shit, there are some of the best songwriters that have ever walked the earth. And there's also some of the people who are aspiring to be those people. And so Chandler Brown and Drake Freeman, we wrote Justice right after my girlfriend and I at the time we broke up, and it was a time where I was just writing heavy all the time, you know, 5 songs a week, something intense. And Justice came very fast, and it was a thing where I couldn't have written it unless I had those guys in the room at that time. And it, you know, so it's that kind of a thing, but I'm still figuring it out. But those are the people that are really inspiring me right now, are like Eric Church. I love Goose. I think Goose is really cool. It's a great jam band. I don't know if you've listened to them.
A little bit, yeah.
They have a lot of that magic realism. Like J.R. Tolkien is like the martyr for magic realism.
Sure.
It's like just magical things happening in the reality that you and I both know. You know what I mean? So, which kind of, honestly, dude, magic can be bad. COVID-19. I discovered magic realism too a couple hours before I did mushrooms that night with the Stone Cold Steve Austin video, which is actually,
man,
I didn't even realize that. So that's very funny. I didn't realize that. No. I was sober. I promise. I was sober at the time.
Yeah. So talk to me about song selection for the record. Did you have a ton of songs ready to go, and how did you whittle it down?
We had a lot of songs ready to go, and it actually came down to doing Let's Do What We Do live. My whole thing, man, Orville Peck taught me this, and Paul Cawthon taught me this, which is you have to tell your story, because your story is what you are. Your story is what you are. It's where you've been. And if you tell your story good enough, well enough, it is where you'll be going,
Mm.
because it's a great place. The point of entry into music, anything that you offer into the world should be seated in an honest way. And I find with music, it's easy to replace honesty with overthinking strategy,
Mm.
right? Sometimes that works. Sometimes
Sure.
that works. If you're the artist who is that person, I am fortunately and unfortunately,
Sure.
am me. And so my thing is I'm a live player. I always have been. That's
Mm.
my superpower. Some people have other superpowers where they can stack vocals in really intricate ways that are super auto-tuned and people on TikTok love it, right? My thing is you got to give me a room full of people. You give me 2 hours and you let me tell my story, then you'll get it. And I
Mm.
understand that that's a harder point of entry and that the scale of success is a little bit different, but that's what I've been dealt with in life. And I really appreciate that. So I realized when Robin called me, he called me out of the blue. I was sitting on this cosmic couch back here, which is hard to see. It's actually
Nice.
super, right? Like you can, it literally is, it's the cosmos on a couch.
That's so cool.
It's awesome. Robin called me out of nowhere. He got my number. He's like, I want to do a record with you. I'm starting this label. And we're going to do no streaming. We're going to do CD only. And we're going to do, you cut it live with your band.
Wow.
You know, at first he wanted to put a band together for it. And then we kind of negotiated on some of the terms because I'm very business minded. And so I realized like what Cosmic Country is, I want it to be more than just what Daniel Donato is. I want it to be a band in the sense of you can come to the show and love everyone who's playing. Just like everyone went to the Grateful Dead show. Some people went just to see Phil Lesh play bass.
Mm. Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Mhm.
At first you wouldn't think that, but then as you get deeper immersed in the culture, you realize of course people would do that because they like dancing to those frequencies.
Mhm.
So I everything's community based. So I wanted to take what was live, what I did 100 shows last year. I wanted to take that and I wanted to bring that to the people because that was the most honest, non-strategic thing I could do. And it's honestly, it's working out in ways that are really beautiful already. We already put 2 songs out and we're getting more listeners than we ever had and more like industry recognition than we've ever had. And
Oh, cool.
it feels like it's right. And we almost did the 500 vinyl pre-order, which is like
Okay.
which is a cool goal that we're trying to hit. So
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Now, has that been like progressing? Like, what do you like about like 300 or something like that? Like,
yeah.
okay, cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So before you got hooked up with Robin, like, did you know you wanted to do an LP and like, were you going around to record labels and that sort of thing? Or did it just when Robin called you, that's when you decided to do it?
Yeah, that's when Robin called me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's when he called me and I realized that the show that we'd been doing definitely could have been a record because it's a chapter. You know, you're always it's your latest draft. I might as well be going up on stage and just taking a typewriter and reading off to people what I've been working on. Because like that's what a show is. It's just your most latest draft of what you are. And since we've cut that record, whenever we listen back to it, it still hits us hard. And but we realize that there's ways that it could always have been different and more recent. I never like to use the word better unless something is overtly better than something else, i.e. more in tune, more accurately executed in a musical fashion. But you get to a certain way in the way that you know how to execute and play your instrument to where, like Bonamassa said, it's not less is more, but different is more. As you progress. Not less is more. That's something that people tell you to do as a guitar player, or as less is more. It's like, no, different is more. Still be you. You know, everyone's trying to do less. Just be different. Like that's so fantastic. So I'm just trying to like listen to my heroes and apply it to the problems and the opportunities that I have on my plate today. And that's what that record is.
Cool. I'll wrap up with you shortly as we're getting close to 4:15 your time. Sorry, I forget what I was going to ask you. Okay, you talked about when you released the record, perhaps like taking a break from social media. Have you gotten any feedback on that, and what kind of steered you toward that?
Yeah, I did. So a friend of mine, a friend of mine who's much older. He's not much older in the sense of being a human, but he's older than me. He's double my life. So he's
Okay.
he just turned 50, which is not old.
Uh-huh.
But that's twice my. That's old in the sense of That's the thing. What's a weird thing about the word old? Because people think it means society means. I mean, like he has like that much more time and money in his bank account.
Mm-hmm.
You
Sure.
know?
Sure.
So he was like, man, everything you're telling me just says you need to adopt a different routine in regards to sensory input and like dominance hierarchy of life, like all the problems that you're telling me that you're experiencing. And I'm like, well, I can't disagree with that. Like, I probably just need to reset. I can feel that my vibrational center is just a little off kilter as of late. It's probably because I'm too ambitious, and I'm set up with all these goals. I'm doing the podcast, running an Instagram business that's aside from Daniel Donato. We're getting the Cosmic Country record off the ground. So I started the Cosmic Country music label. I started Cosmic Country music publishing with BMI.
Oh, wow.
In the future, I could sign writers and have people in support the writing community that I'm involved with and my friends and or aspiring writers that I work with and such as myself. So I'm setting up all these avenues to make tomorrow work, and I think it's making me a little bit stressed today. And so I think now is the time to where also it's like, how old are you?
I'm 28.
Okay, so we're pretty, to someone who's 10 years older than us, we're pretty much the same age, right?
Sure.
Which is very funny. And we could take 3 months off and it would not matter ever. And it's like, oh, that's kind of nice to realize. But then you wake up today and you're like, I got this to do, I got this to do, I got this done. It's like, those things are only important because you say they are. The world does not care. And it's like, so I'm just going to go take some time off. And I don't know how long, maybe 2 weeks, a month, and do things that it's okay to not care about something for a month. Because I have a feeling that this whole era that we're entering into, this is just the beginning. And which is unfortunate. But I think it's time to rethink the strategy and think about how do we keep creating content and how do we still, stay happy and stay positive. So I think I just need to get away from seeing people's successes and people's blunders and people's opinions. So I'm just going to literally leave this house and leave social media just for, I don't know, just to see. What are your thoughts on doing something like that?
I'm in support. I mean, it's definitely different for somebody like you. 'Cause I feel like you're using it in a more productive way than a lot of people because you have yourself and your album to promote and all the different things you're doing, as opposed to somebody who's just mindlessly scrolling and comparing themselves to other people or whatever. But
I do that too. So it's multitasking, right?
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
But yeah, I mean, I do think it's important to disconnect every once in a while. It wasn't that long ago that this wasn't a thing at all, as far as social media. So for me, it's kind of, and it's like you talked about the exponential growth of technology and stuff. I feel like it's kind of good to just pull back from it, at least every now and again, maybe as a routine.
Oh, dude, I think so. You got to quarantine from things. I think the concept of quarantining from so inputs, whether it's a physical thing like a disease, but then you also have the mental. The quarantine, it's not bad. It's not bad. Something that is very scary in regards to exponential growth is the famous photo of a 2001 Apple billboard, and it was an iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket.
Whoa.
And then it flash forwards to the bottom half of the photo is 60 million songs on your Apple Watch. So we're talking 19 years.
Wow.
So we are saying 19 years. That's no time. What does 2039 look like? Oh God, I'm insane, dude.
Yeah.
Insane. And so I got to take a couple weeks off and thinking about all this.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Well,
do you think? Oh my God. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm in support. All right, Daniel, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Anything that you wanted to talk about? Anything else you wanted to hit on?
No, I don't think so. You kind of hit on some of the stuff. I wrote down. I recall you talking about being past better
Yeah.
on guitar, which you kind of touched on. I guess just like, do you think of like the impact? I mean, like in addition to like doing the record and stuff, you're doing the podcast. You've got the Cosmic Country playlist and all that sort of stuff. Like, are you trying to make an impact kind of equally in all realms, or is the podcast more of like a side thing for you? How do you view that?
In reality, it's something I think about every day
Mhm.
and work on every day. I spend time on it as if you were to spend money, you spend time. So I spend
Sure.
time on it every day, editing it, doing things like that. I look at it all as trying to communicate with the world in the most accurate way that I can. The podcast to me is no different than liking a show of mine. It is. Like, don't get me wrong, it is.
Mhm.
But it's the same Daniel is what I mean. Like, it's the
Mm.
same dude. And so if I could I think now we're at a place in our time where whenever you communicate, you of course have opportunities to monetize, but you now have more opportunities to communicate to your people and to the people that subscribe to what you do or people who don't subscribe to what you do. You know what I mean? And you have ability to share your ideas with the world at a very, very low cost of entry. And
Mm.
so it's me trying to be that consistent of who Daniel and what Daniel is as often as possible in as many platforms as possible. I think a podcast is the same thing as a Grateful Dead show in some ways because it's literally dudes improvising
Mm. Yeah.
or women
Yeah.
or
Y-
non-identifying people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're improvising here. We're using our instruments of language, and you and I did not know what we were going to talk about today. Yet we made definitely we had a flow that would have kept the listener's attention span. And it's like, well, that's the same thing as like a great trying to catch sunflower until I know you rider, which is a famous Grateful Dead like piece that they've been doing since like I think 1970 I think.
Wow.
Yeah, long time. Or 71, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, when you do the podcast, do you how do you approach it? Do you just go into it? What do you write down? Do you write down any questions you have for people and that sort of thing?
I write down questions for people that I might be scared of.
Okay.
Most people I'm not scared of.
Okay.
So I don't. I actually I try to have less questions. As you can tell.
Well, I think you do a good job of that because a lot of times you just kind of facilitate and kind of let the guest, like,
Thank
a lot
you.
of times it's just like, how so, and get them to kind of elaborate more on their point. It's a good thing.
Thank you, man. It's very kind. It's very kind. I love the stuff that you've been putting out too. When I had seen that when you had shared Justice, or was it Luck of the Draw? You had posted something. It was one of the two singles. And whenever somebody's doing a podcast or a creative endeavor, I always make sure to go at least check it out.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it, man. It's very kind of you. I'm kind of excited. You talked with American Songwriter, I think recently. They did a piece on you, and you kind of indicated that the singles you've released are more like on the countryside, and the rest of the record is a little bit more experimental. So that had me. I'm like, I cannot wait to hear the record because that's the kind of stuff I'm down for. So
I feel like you're the exact person that I'm trying to speak to.
well, cool.
Like,
Yeah.
you are like, to me, like it is like the greatest, like it's the greatest privilege. The fact that someone who loves the kind of music that you love, you're the kind of listener that you are. The fact that my music reached you is like just the most beautiful thing in the world because you're the exact person I'm trying to reach, man. So you will. I have a really strong feeling that you're going to love the rest of this record. I really hope you do. And when you do get a copy, let me know what you think about it. And be brutally honest.
Of course, man. Thank you again for your time. Once again, the record is Young Man's Country. It'll be out August 7th, but of course you can stream Luck of the Draw and Justice right now wherever you stream music. And that's it, Daniel. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much, Colin. I appreciate it, my friend.
It's just us, no discussion. We don't rush into this.
Zeke made me so fucking mad.